right.
So proud of you.
We are one episode behind because GarageBand decided to just not pick up an entire fucking microphone last time we tried to record an episode.
And if we had tried to record it with one episode, I would have sounded like I was in a wind tunnel, apparently. According to you.
Well, it's
possible. You're right. I don't talk that loudly.
Well, you talking into a microphone and me sitting across the table from you talking
Screaming
into a microphone. Literally, it's like trying to talk over Ric Flair at one of the WWE wrestling things. Like, it's not gonna happen. Did you ever watch wrestling?
No, I'm not. I'm gay.
Do you know who Vince McMahon is?
Yes.
Okay, so that's enough.
I just know the name. I don't know any descriptive details about him.
He was the big guy.
He's dead, right?
What? No.
Oh, I don't know.
No.
Well, you used past tense verbs like was.
Oh, was. Well, he has had some plastic surgery since then.
Well, maybe he's retired. He's old. I don't know.
No, he's like 79 and he still does the pro wrestling thing. It's terrifying.
Whatever.
His wife, Linda, was Trump's small business czar or something like that. So she was in charge of figuring out small businesses.
Did she figure them out?
I guess she figured them out, and then your president, Joe Biden, Joseph, what's his name?
Robinette.
Beauregard.
Robinette, I thought.
Joseph Periwinkle Biden.
Joseph Twinkle Toes Biden.
Yeah. I love how to add injury to insult. His middle name, it's like Joseph Faggot Biden or something like that. Like, that's his name. I think that's so mean. I don't know why they would name him that. Why would you do that?
Ask his dead parents. I don't know. Have a seance.
Is his mother still alive?
Oh God, I would hope not.
Well, it's like John McCain. Like, he kept dragging his mother up. I think she's still alive. She's like 108 or something like that. She's like, ah.
I'm sorry. Our neighbor is climbing into her flower beds.
She's been working. I saw her doing yoga in the front.
Doing yogi? Yogi Berra? She's doing Yogi Berra in the front?
Yes, in the front. But she is Joseph Robinette Biden's age, and she's quite limber. And has good recall. So
maybe she should be president. And
I would vote for her for president. She gave me oregano yesterday.
She also has a very big fat ass, and it's like staring me in the face from across the street.
Can you please stop looking at an elderly woman's ass across the street? What's wrong with you?
I'm a gay man. I can't help it.
What's wrong? What? This woman in her 70s with a dump truck. But enough about Martha Stewart and her Sports Illustrated cover,
which was fantastic.
Well, editing is a marvel. The editing that they did on Kim. Well, the editing that they did on Kim Petras' picture to make Kim Petras not look like a hamper was impressive. Oof, the moans are hitting. So, I had a list of topics for our previous episode that I was not able to get to.
Well, I only had the two, so you're...
But I don't remember what they were, and I'm looking for the list right now. Oh, okay. See, my notes are fascinating because it'll just be
No, they're not. They're scary.
No, they're fascinating because it'll just be like it'll just be like a little like clip of a note that just says like bleak obliques. Hot dog on a shtick. And I don't know if I'm supposed to work that into something in the future, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe I was a lounge comic back in like the 60s, and I'm putting things on index cards for material for later. I think in a past life, I was a lounge comic. And in a life before that, I was a silent film actor.
And a cockroach before that.
And then before that, I was just completely intolerable. So, I think that we should go with, we had an audience request. And by audience, I mean Colin, requested that we talk about something.
Yes.
What did he want to bring to our attention?
He brought to our attention...
He said, Mike 2, speak into it.
In a not-so-subtle way.
He said, hey, fuckos.
Alec Baldwin will be in a
porno
film which dramatizes the Kent State shooting.
I see the shoot.
And this is of course after, he shot someone. Allegedly. Well, no, he shot.
It's not alleged that they shot someone. It's alleged
on purpose.
The gun went off. I think that's the allegedly part.
Right.
That's a weird thing to pick up after all of this, but I also get it. Kent State is not something that's talked about very much. And I think I'm surprised that for as much hay as they make about the civil rights crap in the 60s and all that kind of stuff, Kent State doesn't get brought up much because I think that to that generation, they know what it is. But to our generation, it's just a footnote in a textbook. Like, you know, and it was something where it's like, were the protesters in the wrong? Who knows? But it's not something that you don't see an Emmett Till movie about Kent State. You don't see like a, Central Park 5 movie about Kent State. It just becomes this kind of like, oh yeah, that thing happened, a few hippies died, move it along.
Well, okay, so a woman,
fish,
is directing this film.
Oh God, haven't they learned the lesson of a female director with Alec Baldwin?
Karen Slade.
Hope she has an insurance policy.
And it says Baldwin is set to take the role of the then president of the university, Robert White.
Oh, God. All right.
According to Deadline, the film will follow the events that transpired that day and will ask the question of why these massacres continue to happen. Oh, okay, so this is going to lead into a, guns
Hands up, don't shoot, fuck this.
Oh, God.
That's going to be
Colin,
completely intolerable.
You just wanted to hear us get mad, didn't you?
But to be fair, if you are an actor like Alec Baldwin, who is ostensibly liberal, and you're not in the good graces of the media because you shot somebody, allegedly, this is how you get back in the good graces of the media, because you shot someone, allegedly. You do a movie about a shooting and how dangerous shootings are, and then they forgive you because it's one of their pet issues.
Right, and directly speaking to that, one of the producers of the film said, quote, "The Kent State shooting was a dark and pivotal moment in our nation's history. This is a story that needs to be told and surprisingly never has. We are looking forward to bringing it to the big screen to educate and inspire both young and old alike." I don't know if that's really an inspiring story.
I don't think it has, because nobody wants to talk about what life was like then. And the fact that there were college campuses that were just on the brink of erupting into complete disorder and mayhem. It's the same thing as the
really quickly, filming started in New Mexico, by the way.
Oh, God, already?
Yeah. In October of 2021. So this it's basically almost done then.
And, well, then it sounds like that role was left out, and then they waited to cast him at the last second and shoehorn him in. But a couple issues here. Number one, nobody wants to talk about what leftist violence looked like at that period of time. You had the Black Panthers being shot. The Black Panthers, radical as they are, being shot by, like, the African, radical New Africa, three-letter agency-sponsored killers on the UCLA campus at that time. They will never make a movie about that because it's left-on-left crime. They will never, ever make a movie about that situation that's, going to come out. And you had a lot of really violent protest all across the country for a long period of time, to the point where normal people were probably wondering, like, what the hell is going to happen? Like, it was, if you thought that the BLM riots were bad, of Minneapolis and Detroit and LA and in Tennessee and stuff like that, this was like on steroids, and it happened for a long period of time. And the funny thing about it was, they're making the Emmett Till movie right as the woman is about to die, and everybody else who remembers it or was at least aware of what was happening is about to die. And now they're going to rewrite the history of something that happened about 15 years later, when those people are starting to get old enough to not be culturally relevant to say, hey, wait a second, I was there, this isn't what happened.
Right.
I cannot wait for the Oklahoma City bombing movie.
Oh my God, please.
Well, they're doing a Waco
haven't
movie.
They done that? Yeah.
Well, what, they did a musical? Murrah, the movie. And then go get more of the yerba mate. Stop reading and start talking.
Well, no, I was gonna, because you made me think of something. Have they made? I don't think they've made a movie about the May of 1968 protests and riots that were in France that did a lot of damage.
That's France.
Well, I know, but that was like a dark time in their history, and I don't think they've ever made a movie about it.
They've ever made a movie about the Prime Minister of Italy being killed during that period of time, or kidnapped or whatever. It was some weird shit. That was a weird and dark time in this country's history.
So I guess...
And many countries' histories.
This leads to the natural question of, why are we remaking so much stuff and not making, real movies about stuff that happened that has never been told?
Because if there's no angle, what's the point? This one has an angle. It's going to be a gun thing. It's going to be a protest thing. It's going to be a... These were just innocent kids on a college campus not trying to beat the shit out of cops or whatever. Like, this is fine.
Can't the angle be we want to educate people who don't know what happened during these times?
No, that doesn't sell. An Emmett Till movie would not have sold 20 years ago as even a PBS, like, what's his name with the weird bangs? Ken Burns narration. It wouldn't have even sold then. But on the feet of, like, we need a movie to inspire this community and tell the story that wasn't told, then it gets told. Movies don't get made just for general interest anymore.
Well, that's a problem.
Well, yeah, it's a big problem. But now no movies are going to get made if the writer's strike continues.
Well,
so we're in a period of time where either... For those, I mean, who knows? By the time this comes out, maybe it'll come to a close. But the last writer's strike went for 3 weeks or 3 months and a few weeks, I believe. So almost 4 months. And what happened was, one of the big effects is a lot of scripted television for network, ABC, NBC, CBS, either ended abruptly. Seasons changed, they were canceled, they were postponed, they were distributed differently because network TV at that time ran so close to the runtime. So like with soap operas, they usually have them in the can about 3 months ahead.
Oh, right.
But with some network television, they would have episode 1 on broadcast. Episode 8 would still be being filmed because that's within a few weeks of, when episode 1 is being broadcast. That's changed since, and now they've learned their lessons, so there's a lot more episodes broadcast in the can. But late night shows you can't have in the can. Not necessarily. You can't have,
No. Yeah.
So that's news related. You can't have, game shows get put in the can ahead of time, but not that much anymore. It doesn't have the backlog it used to.
I think
we're running off of 2 years of Hollywood being shut down, basically. So
game shows. I think like Wheel of Fortune, for example. I think they do like 5 episodes in one day, and so that's an entire week, and then
like Judy Justice.
Yeah.
All roads lead to Judy Justice.
But sorry, you brought up a point, and now it left me. Oh yes, one of my favorite television shows, I think, basically was canceled because of the writer's strike, and that was Desperate Housewives. I think Desperate Housewives, it was on season like 7 or 8. It probably honestly had another 2 to 3 seasons left.
Yeah, you could only squeeze so much.
Right, but because it was still somewhat popular, they could have gotten another 2 to 3 years out of it. But because of the writer's strike, they were like, okay, we'll just call it.
But that happened during the last era of big network TV because it was like building up. Like, yeah, you had some reality shows like Survivor and Bachelor and things like that that were unscripted, but...
Maybe this will finally kill Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, God.
The show's been on forever.
Put that out of its misery. But... at the time, you had these big network shows like Desperate Housewives that people would actually tune in at a specific time to watch. I know that's a very foreign concept now.
Right.
And after that, it was like, well, unscripted TV is the future because we don't have to worry about a writer's guild or anything like that. Like, now the writers have managed to get their claws into all reality television. So producer, it's called like a... it's not a storyboard writer, but it's like a situational producer. There's some euphemism for the person who basically says, okay, you're going to walk in here, she's going to be sitting in this place, you're going to both eat salads, and you're going to talk about what happened at last night's, barbecue. That's basically what they do. So in absence of them, I don't know what they're going to do. They might actually have to, God forbid, come up with original ideas. But if the writer's strike continues for 3 more months, I think it'd be fascinating to see the kind of shows. You're just going to have YouTube and TikTok shows at that point.
I mean, you mentioned a couple days ago, and I think you're probably right. They probably do have some reality shows on a shelf somewhere ready for something like this.
Well, I saw a news article saying that there's something like the Golden Bachelor. So it's like the Bachelor, but he's 60, and I don't know if the contestants are also 60, but they had this idea that was...
Yeah, was it just the idea, or have they filmed it already?
They're starting, because the idea came out, like in 2018, 2019, someone came out with the idea, and they were like, no, that's stupid. And then 2020 was shut down, 2021, they're like, let's bring it back, no, that's stupid. And now 2023... okay, I think we have to come up with this idea. I think the original guy considered is probably dead now. But, good for him.
Probably died of COVID. No,
And it's probably like, bring out George Hamilton. Wheel him out with his tan. Have him host. We really are in the Love Boat era of TV where it's just like we are phoning it the fuck in.
Well, who knows what, new and interesting reality shows they'll pull out of the hat if this goes on too much longer. But I do have to say, there is something, because you brought it up, there is something nice about... It started with the whole TiVo era, but it's made its way into, like, real luxury, where you can watch whatever show you want at whatever time you want. So, like, you get done with a long day and you're not rushing back home to be like, oh, it's 7 o'clock, I have to watch my show. Obviously, like I said, TiVo helped. You could, like, and DVRs where you could, record that stuff and watch it later. But now streaming stuff is even better because it's like, I don't even have to worry about setting it. It's just going to be there when I get home. And, I do everything I need to do for the day. I bring my, like, take out home, sit down in front of the television and watch my show.
Right.
Like, there's no more scheduling around, a TV schedule. There's no more TV guides, right? That doesn't exist anymore.
You raise a very good point there. In 1970, when the Kent State shooting happened, you could determine when people would be at a place. When middle of the day on Wednesday, people are at work, people are at school, people are out of the house. It was very easy to rob a house during then because people are away during a specific time. Now, you got half the people working from home, half the kids aren't in school, and
some people work from home every other day, so you're like, are they home today? Can I rob them today?
Exactly. And then they're being robbed during a Zoom call. But then that also extends to the evening portion of the day, where at 6 p.m., people are not sitting at home watching the nightly news unless they're in their 70s or older. And people are not sitting at home and watching a scheduled TV show. Like, no one's sitting there watching a late night show at 10 p.m. anymore. That doesn't happen. It happened in 1970, not anymore. So people aren't all in the same place at the same time anymore. People could be anywhere and nowhere.
And people get pissed at Twitter now because, people who are either watching it live or watching it before you tweet some spoiler and you're like, God damn it, I saw the spoiler.
Right, so you have to almost watch it at a certain time so you don't see the spoiler, or
stay off of Twitter, which a lot of people do. But
yeah.
The point is, it is an absolute luxury to not have to worry about scheduling your time around your favorite television show.
Yeah.
I mean, back when Who Shot JR, right? When that was happening, my aunt, who has since passed, she remembers telling the best story. She was like, I was about to get on a flight. All the instead of putting on CNN or any news channel, every television in the airport was on Dallas because we all wanted to watch the last episode of Dallas, the very last episode. And she said everyone in that airport was just waiting for their flights and eyes peeled to this, these television monitors. And then all of a sudden you hear the gunshot and, the whole spoiler alert. If you've never seen Dallas, Who Shot JR, right? The end of the show is it goes black. You hear a gunshot and you never know, if the guy dies or who did it or anything like that. So, like, it was a cliffhanger ending. And
it was Diane Carroll.
She said, I remember people screaming in the airport saying, your TV went dead, your TV went off. Like, they thought it was, they didn't think it was, like, part of the show. They thought the TV's just malfunctioned. And she said, I remember people, like, losing their shit.
Okay, so the last two things that people watched live like that, where it was actually TV was a participatory activity for non-sports people, would be the O.J. Chase and 9/11. That's it. After that, done. Yeah. 9/11. There's no reason for you to be peeled to a television, to the point where a lot of new homes now, I'm noticing, have more focus on the bedroom television placement than on the living room television placement. So I've seen this in new home listings and stuff. The living room is just back to like a formal sitting area. Well, it's not even a living room anymore. It's part of the kitchen. So you walk in, homes have giant kitchens that extend into the living room and family room and dining room area.
A parlor for entertaining guests.
Right.
Or parties or whatever.
So it's just a big open area with no screens, and then the bedroom is where the real watch experience is. Or the really nice homes will have their own theater room where you go into a specific room to watch it.
Right.
Because there was an awkward period of time where TV placement in a home was, what do you stick it in front of the fireplace? Like, do you stick it above the fireplace? Because the fireplace is supposed to be the centerpiece, and then you have someone's couch to the back of the fireplace, just retarded.
Which is why they made those televisions, when the flat screens first came out, they were like, oh, and you can like turn it to this certain channel where it looks like a piece of art hanging on your above your fireplace.
That was in like the disc that they first came with.
So bizarre. Anyway, did you ever find your other topics? Because I had one more.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so this, I sort of teased it on the last episode, this Durham report that came out. I've now listened to several people's thoughts about it, of different opinions. I haven't listened to, well, I think probably anyone on the left ignored it completely because they're like, oh, that never happened. But people on the right are saying this is worse than Watergate.
So giving some color to the situation. So there was a special counsel appointed by Congress, the Justice Department?
The Justice Department.
Okay.
Yes, because it was all tied in with the Mueller investigation.
Okay. But there was supposed to be a report that was, okay, the Mueller report happened, no one gave a shit, and moving along. Trump didn't get indicted or anything. Then they said there's going to be this thing called the Durham Report, special counsel, John Durham, I think his name is John Durham,
yes.
is doing a report investigating why the FBI made these claims about Russian hacking of the election.
And where they came from.
On Trump's behalf. And there was a lot of shady things about a dossier given to the Clinton campaign by Christopher Steele, the way that they coordinated with the FBI, with Susan Rice, with President Obama at the time, and how all this sort of nasty stuff happened in 2016 to make the 2016 election a lot more hinky.
Right.
So this report has been touted for years and years. Is this going to be the thing that gets Hillary into prison? Are the intelligence companies going to have to pay for what they did? What's it going to find out? What kind of collusion are they going to find out on the left to affect the 2016 election?
Right. And so what I heard from people on Fox, and not like crazy people on Fox, like legit people like Dana Perino who've
right.
been in this gig for forever. She's like, this is really bad because it basically implicates that, like you said, Obama, Rice, Biden, all of these people knew that all of it was a lie and yet pushed it forward anyway and had Trump's campaign spied on and all of this stuff.
Right.
And basically tainted and ruined his first 2 years of his presidency. Like, he was kind of a lame duck for the first 2 years because he was battling.
He operated under a cloud of suspicion for the first 2 years, and
right.
then there was one sort of like in between transition year, and then the last year was
COVID.
Was a dumb virus. So it was like he got kind of like not a real presidency. To be fair, I still think that there were a lot of hiring mistakes and things like that, but it was like trying to land on a very short runway.
Right. So they're saying, people people on Fox are saying this is a huge deal, and yes, it is, and that it's worse than Watergate, and these people,
A lot of things are worse than Watergate, by the way. Watergate was nothing.
Well, I guess the line that Dana Perino used was, everyone likes to say, oh my God, it was worse than Watergate, but this really was. Like, that's what she said. Like, she said, this really was. Like, this, there are a lot of moving parts to this, a lot of people who did really shady things. And downright...
The I word, illegal?
Well, see, that's the problem, is on the other side, I just listened to the Dispatch podcast, sorry.
God, you can't say the name.
And so I heard some of the more moderate takes on this, and they said it wasn't such a big deal, and no one did anything illegal. And that people on the right are making too much of a big deal out of this. And I'm going, what's the truth? Like, because I don't know enough, I'm not intelligent enough to be able to break down everything that's being said, and I don't have the time to read it.
Well, it's not your wheelhouse.
Right, that's
it's not
my
anyone's
point.
wheelhouse, to be fair. This is some weird
That's my
insider
point.
shit.
Who do I listen to?
Right.
You know, do I listen to these people who say, yes, it's a big deal and it, you know, all these people did horrible things? Or do I listen to the people who say, it was bad, but...
None of these reports ever find anything, though, that is actionable. That's the problem. They have a conclusion, and no one goes to jail, no one gets arrested, nothing happens. Whether it's the 9/11 Commission or the Church Committee or any of this nonsense, nothing ever goes to the point where it's like, and then this person is going to jail. And that's the worst part of the system is reports are basically just being stenographers for things that already happened. And I feel like that's why when Mueller, she wrote, and all of the left, jumping up and down about the Mueller report, I always cautioned some kind of moderation there because I'm like, you're not going to be happy with the results. Oh, but we found that Trump, it was like a game of Clue. Like, oh, he was in the cloakroom with Russian intelligence. Okay. And then the counter version of it is going to show, yeah, the FBI did some things that were at best unethical, at worst wildly illegal, interfering with an election on behalf of the executive branch. No one is going to be held to task for it. It's just going to be a transcript of what happened.
Right. But there are two things that I'd like to ask or bring up.
Yes.
So first of all, I'll go with this one first. So first of all, Greg Gutfeld, I think, made a very good point. I was listening to him talk on the Five. It's a good point. It's kind of alarming. So I do want to get your opinion on this because you and I haven't talked about it yet. He said he kind of feels like he has an understanding for people like Biden and Obama and everyone who let this happen because he said if, according to their own words, if they view Donald Trump as someone so dangerous to our democracy as to call him basically Hitler or a fascist, if they think that he is so dangerous, they would stop at nothing to not have him lead our country.
Right.
Not have him win
and everything
the
would
election.
be retroactively justifiable.
Right. And so they're rationalizing all of their actions and thinking, well, we're saving our country by doing these shady, illegal...
And 30% of the voting base will be like, of course.
And thank
You're
you.
defending
Thank you for
democracy.
Yes, thank you for helping us. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Thank you for saving us from, Cheeto Man or whatever the fuck they call him.
But, I mean, it's a good point. Like, do they really think that he is so evil that they had to do something like that? Or are they just wildly unethical? Or both? I don't know.
I think that anyone who stands in their way, they would think that, which is why I think one of the most effective lines that Trump's used in his entire time in political life has been, they're after you, I'm in the way. That's a very important thing. I think, okay, they think he's vulgar, they think he's, whatever. These people all thought that he was fine 5-10 years before that. Okay.
Right.
So
when he was giving them money.
Exactly. So when getting NAACP awards and shit like that. Yeah. Okay. But I think the fact that they realize that somebody can attract a following, can shoot from the hip, and is in the way of whatever they're trying to do, that makes him the target. It's not because he's particularly skilled. It's not because of, anything like that. It's just that he's willing to step up and say, wait a second, hold on, something here isn't right. Like, why are we doing this? And that makes him a liability to them. So that's why...
Because he's pulling back the curtain.
Right, that's why he's Cheeto Hitler in a lot of ways. Now, there's a lot more I think he could have done. I think there's a lot more that he has to do. One of the things that worries me about a potential DeSantis presidency is that you get you get to make some adjustments on the board, but adjustments on the board you're still operating on the same board. Does that make sense? So you changed a few people on commissions, you renamed a few things, you passed a law that says we're going to do things differently. Well, it doesn't. These people operate extra legal all the time. They'll just work around your commissions and around your laws, and with corporations, they'll denounce you. Okay, DeSantis is getting stampeded by Disney right now, which is exactly what everybody would say would happen. Disney said, okay, You don't want to play ball? Fine. We're canceling a $2 billion office development in Orlando. See how the voters feel about that. They got him by the balls. There's nothing you can do. I think that it was smart to step up and say, what you guys are supporting is ridiculous, and you shouldn't, you should know better. But I also think there were different ways to go about it that don't end up endangering potential jobs. And I think this idea of, he fights. It's like that. These are the same people who criticize Trump for so long, and people saying he fights. And now just because their guy's doing it, it's like, that's the thing. So getting back to that, I think it's why they think that DeSantis is dangerous because he might be able to pass one or two pieces of legislation that will be easily circumvented. But they think that Trump is dangerous because he is wildly unpredictable. And he has a record of doing and saying things that has woken up many, many people to how awful the situation is when people weren't paying attention. So that's the difference. But who knows? Maybe Asa Hutchinson will get the job done. Or Tim Scott.
Well, okay, so this brings me to my second point, my second question, which deals with your congressman.
Don't look at me.
Your congressman, Mr. Pencil Dick, whatever, Adam Schiff.
He's a man? I could have had a tranny congressman called Maybe a Girl.
Who we saw on a flyer.
For a Pride MC.
Yeah, at Stash. And if you're in WeHo, go to Stash and see Maybe a Girl.
And see who maybe my Congress
maybe
person.
Could have been.
Maybe could have been.
Unless it runs again.
God
anyway.
bless.
So when Adam Schiff was on all of these networks saying, "Oh, I've seen the evidence. I've seen the evidence that never existed."
He never saw shit.
Well, exactly. Like he lied over and over and over and over again, and he's never been called to task about it
Because he knew he was going to run for Senate.
But he is consistently using that in his Senate campaign. So apparently in his Senate campaign, he's been saying,
I stood up to so.
Yeah, I did all of this stuff in this investigation. It's like, but you didn't because it's not real. Like,
I think that would be...
How can you still use that?
Right.
How can you still tout that as an accomplishment? And people on the left who are going to, vote for him in any kind of primary, if there is a primary, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to believe it, right? Because they're watching MSNBC, they're watching CNN, who are not talking about this at all, and who don't know that he's lied about all of this.
I think it would be an effective argument from the left if someone was able to say, look, these people promised all this stuff. They fooled you with Mueller. They fooled you with all these other things. They fooled you with the idea that in any of the impeachment processes were going to work. Why let them fool you again? And just sort of hit them in sort of a demoralization campaign. I'm surprised that more of that hasn't happened.
But
I know why.
Is Katie Porter smart enough to do that? Isn't she the one who's running against him?
But the problem is that she'll run as a progressive. The only person who I think would do that effectively would be Barbara Lee. Because she has nothing to lose. She's running because she's basically saying, I'm a woman of color, and I was told a woman of color was supposed to get this seat next. Literally. That's her entire campaign. Katie Porter is like, I beat up my husband and I'm going to beat up Washington.
With my whiteboard.
Can we start a GoFundMe for Katie Porter's husband?
Oh, I was about to say for her. I was like, no, I'm not.
I'm not giving her any money. I'm going to give her battered husband money. She probably socked him right in the fucking face.
Well, I mean, he married her. I don't feel sorry for him.
Speaking of unstoppable women in Congress, did you hear what Dianne Feinstein said? When they asked her about her absence from the Senate, and she was like, absent? I've been here the whole time. Right. I love that. I'm so happy. I, as a Californian, am pledging now, I will vote for Dianne Feinstein again for Senate. If she decides not to run, I will write her name in for Senate once again. I think the state deserves to be represented by a woman in a wheelchair in her 90s who does not know where she is. And if Janice Dickinson won't do it, then Dianne Feinstein has to.
Because that's the state of this state.
Oh.
It's a state in a wheelchair not knowing where she is.
Like, yes. I think that's a more honest... I don't know who our other... Did I say on a previous podcast who it is? It's some and diversity hire. Who's our other senator?
Don't say our. I'm not officially a resident of California.
Well, who's it's the Mexican dude. What's his name?
I don't know.
Alex Padilla.
You don't know?
I didn't even look it up. I just remembered.
Okay. That name does sound familiar. I was about to say, you don't know your other senator? There's only 2. I mean, I know you wouldn't know all of the representatives. There's
well, technically we have about 12 to 15 senators because of the number of Dianne Feinstein staff members that actually do the job for her, but that's okay. Somewhere there is a theater gay whose voice couldn't cut it that's actually our senator. Like at Bayou, that one that sang it, that one that... you want to talk about Demon Twink? What? This was a real Demon Twink. We're sitting at Bayou.
We were terrorized.
This past weekend, and we were assaulted verbally by this...
No, auditorily.
No, verbally. He was verbally assaulting people.
Right, but our ears were
My ears were assaulted. I was visually assaulted.
It wasn't like he was assaulting our integrity or you know...
maybe. He assaulted everything. I felt violated audibly because we were sitting in a bar. Bayou is, like a little open bar. It's the size of a walk-in closet. And it's grimy. We love it. The owner's this funny British guy. The bartenders are cool. And they had Happy Dad. So, win, 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 win. And the drinks are cheap. Mm. But we're sitting at the bar talking to our friends.
By the way, to top that off, cheap drinks...
Top? And Bayou?
Cheap drinks meaning... in LA, you buy one drink for $28. I bought 4 for $28, like for the group of friends.
Yes,
that's pretty damn good for LA.
Like the seltzers were like $2-3. Like right. They didn't charge you beer prices. Like everything was cheap. The shots are cheap. So we're sitting there with our group talking, and all of a sudden, this gay gets within 3 inches of my face as I'm in the middle of a conversation with somebody, screaming Ariana Grande lyrics at me. It started with the Ariana Grande song first because I was standing at the bar.
Oh, then I was in the restroom when that happened.
And I was so uncomfortable. I just start laughing as loudly as I can because I didn't know what to do. I don't know if I push him. I don't know if I hit him in the face. I don't know if I asked for help. But our group
you weren't
was there.
even drunk because you were driving.
I was driving. I hadn't had any alcohol. And that was when I was like, I think I actually am going to get a drink because I'm scared and I feel violated. And so he was just like, I don't know. It wasn't Into You. It was One Last Time, which is Ariana Grande's worst song. He said, isn't it her best song? And then just like, one last time. And just like screaming it in my fucking face. And so I'm like, like I just start like cry laughing. Like what's her name at the end of Pearl?
Yeah, Mia Goth.
Mia Goth in Pearl. And I go and sit down at the table. And then he does it to 2 or 3 of our other friends. And then he finds someone else to sing with him, which is horrible. And he keeps bounding back and forth. By the way, this man looks like someone who could be a middle manager at an H&R Block screaming at you. Like he looks like an accountant.
Yeah, no, he looked...
And worst of all, he looked familiar.
He looked in his early 40s.
Yes.
But I think... This is what I don't understand. Someone who looks that age and who looks that bad... because when the song changed to High School Musical, which is, by the way, of not even my generation. I'm too old for High School Musical. And this man who is older than me knew that shit.
And it was that soaring, flying. He's like, does everyone remember where this is from? And you were like, no.
Because I never saw that
and
shit.
then you were like, I'm going to the bathroom. And then you left me out there because there's only one bathroom. And it's like a single
I'm too
use.
old for High School Musical. And he was way too old for High School.
And he just kept prancing back and forth and screaming this. And I was so close to a hate crime. You have no idea. I've come close, but that was close.
Is it considered a hate crime?
It was hate self-defense.
No. Is it considered a hate crime if a gay hurts another gay? Like for being gay?
No, it's a Tuesday.
I know, legitimate question. Like, can one member of a community or a group hate crime another member of the same community?
Honestly, it really... The spirit of Shirley Phelps Roper entered me.
Oh, God.
I wish I had a sign.
You just needed a caftan.
I wish I had a megaphone. I was so close. It was so upsetting. And then finally they left, and it was so much quieter, and we could actually have a conversation. But this is a really good analogy. This Demon Twink
What time was that, by the way?
It's like 3-4 p.m.
Yeah, I think it was around 4:30
on a Sunday.
Around 4:30 on a Sunday, and this man was gone.
So he'd been drinking for like 3 days straight.
Toasted.
So I think the lesson is that Demon Twink screaming at your face is the media telling you that any of these reports, like the Mueller report, actually matter. And you have to just push it out the door, pretend like it doesn't exist.
For making that analogy, I'm about to push you out the door.
That was a good fucking recall.
Anyway, did you have any other topics that you could find?
I was going to go on a rant about why shopping is dead and dining is dead and all that stuff, but I can say that for another discussion. We're long enough on this.
Okay. Well,
that was my note. I know
my note is go fuck yourself.
Oh.